backyard, my YouTube channel. This is the final live stream, probably, for 2021, January 31st, 2021. What a transformative year it has been in the backyard. And I thought today I would share some of my reflections, and this is a perfect day to do it, since it is very foggy. This is a very uncommon condition, but it does get foggy here occasionally in Zone 10A here in Central Florida. I'm located roughly east of Orlando. And I made some changes last year that changed everything for the better, just created a cascading effect. And I'll give you a good example of this. It's just occurred everywhere. Anywhere I walk, I could give you good examples of this, but the chocolate pudding fruit this year are gigantic. And they're also very plentiful. There are a lot of them. See up in that tree. Many, many more. I've never seen chocolate pudding fruit this size in my yard. And I'm going to get to why here in a moment in the video. You can hear my sweet little hennies. They're trying to get my attention. They're wondering if I'm going to maybe give them some black fly soldier larvae from Grub Terra, by the way. Shout out to Grub Terra. And some other good examples include this Dracaena fragrance, which occasionally would give one flower. It's a novelty. This year it has flowers all around it. It's kind of difficult to see, but large Dracaena fragrance flowers, which make, quite honestly, the entire backyard smell absolutely wonderful. You can see I don't put a lot of focus on the grass back here, other than to apply manure. But here's the game changer. And by the way, stay tuned. I have a gigantic, I'll just let you see it when I put it up. A gigantic piece of art that we're going to place on that fence. This is our bunny run. And here is the game changer. That is the element that changed everything in the yard. And it was the acquisition of two wonderful lion head bunnies. You could achieve the same thing, maybe even better if you had the larger meat bunny type bunnies like the New Zealand or Californian or chinchilla rabbits. But these bunnies, in addition to being wonderful, wonderful pets, they are absolutely the producer of non-stop, top-grade bunny manure. And if you look at bunny manure for a moment, you realize it's essentially the perfect resource as manure. It's a cold manure, so you can apply it directly to your plants. And it provides food for everything you want in your backyard. So if you just sprinkle this stuff around everywhere in your yard, here's what's going to happen. First of all, you're going to get worms. You want to get worms? I want to get worms. I'm stoked I have worms. And if you put bunny manure around, those worms are coming. That's like ringing the bell. The other thing is just a little bit of water. And you know what? I'll go ahead. We like to get both these bunnies out for extended playtime every day. A lot of time sleeping, but good old Penelope probably enjoy a little outside time. I'm gonna grab her. Need both hands. There you go. And they're so sweet. Wow. Penelope has just been handled so much that she's totally used to it. Yeah, the chickens come with some obvious drawbacks. One is that they make noise. I kind of like the noise, but and if you have just hens, it's not too bad. They're being like this because they think I'm going to give them treats. There's Penelope. Now, you know, I also got the chickens, which increase the complexity of the animal component, but you could easily get everything you need from a couple of bunnies. And like these are very small bunnies, lionhead bunnies. Hey, chickens. Hey. I know. And I love the chickens. The chickens make excellent pets too. But you can't put their manure directly down on stuff because it will kill it in a lot of cases because it's hot, very hot manure from chickens. You have to compost it. Wish I had some seeds to give them. I'll have to go in and get some scratch grains. But the bunnies make no noise. And here's another comparison between bunnies and chickens. Chickens produce a bit more smell. Farm smell. It's not necessarily a bad smell. It's easy to manage if you incorporate enough wood into your setup. But bunnies have almost no smell. The manure has very little smell, and the bunnies themselves are pretty much scentless. They have no smell I can discern. So, you know, that in and of itself is wonderful. No noise, no smell. Very, very easy and inexpensive to care for. We spend for these two bunnies about $10 a month feeding them. And we could spend less, but you know, we get them the pellets, and then we also feed them a lot of other stuff. Sugarcane leaves, mulberry leaves, all manner of vegetables, all kinds of things, fruits. So these bunnies are inexpensive to have. And you know, you can see I dedicated this corner space of my yard to being a bunny run. So, you know, they're up and away from predators when we're not watching them, but then when we're out here, we let them out. Now, since we don't want baby bunnies, we don't let the male out with the female. This is Penelope, she's a female. But Thumper, her brother, is also right up there, but he's a male. And bunnies are sure to reproduce if you put them together. This little corner of the Zen Bunny run, you know, has really been an excellent addition. My whole family uses this bench to come sit and pet the rabbits or sit and watch the chickens in here. We bring the chickens in here a lot. It was actually all green grass in here. We grew it up, kind of made it pasture. I might do that again this spring, let it grow up with you know, grass in here, and then let the chickens in to graze on it like a hay field. Right now it's just decimated from the chicken scratching, but you can see the little bits of Bermuda grass roots still clinging to life here. Those will actually come right back if they don't have the pressure of the chickens. But when the chickens are in here, they're eating every bit of it and they're scratching it constantly. But this has been excellent. It's actually a red sugarcane with lemongrass around it, and it produces that cool, you know, structure on the bottom, and then the more vertical growth of the sugarcane. And I think the red sugarcane just looks striking, certainly. One cool thing is that this lemongrass is going all the way to seed. So all these things benefit from constant bunny manure. That, again, I just will say it and say it and say it. That is the game changer. If you're going to do one thing for your backyard to make it pop, to change it, just, you know, the whole system, to provide the foundation for the whole system you want to have going, where you're getting lots of production, well, then the bunny manure is what you do to start. I would say it's just so easy. So easy. And I think bunnies are pretty easy to acquire. See this little area that I've got rocking here. This is brand new this year. Just a couple Song of India, common Dracaena shrub like one back there, Dracaena fragrans. We got the Montingia, Dracaena tricolor, giant lily, oyster, dwarf oyster. Yeah, and the The Tree of Life has been a big, bonus this year. Having incorporation of a few new key species this year has really, really been a good move. The pigeon pea is one of them. You see I've got pigeon peas growing all in here. That was a huge positive add. Go check out the pigeon pea videos if you want to see all the details about it. But then, of course, there are a few other key plants that I added. The Roselli was another one. Florida cranberry. Quick update, the banana patch, my new Cavendish banana patch, is thriving. As you can see, plant in bulk, harvest in bulk. You can plant these things rather tight when you're giving them enough nutrients. It makes me want to give them a shovel full of the bunny turds right now. My mango trees are all in flower mode in December, which is a bit troubling. But I've got 3 new mango trees and they're all doing very well. Here, the salt burns the leaves pretty severely on just about everything. So that's a huge factor in growing in some places coastally, but also in Florida in general. If you've ever had the salt content of your irrigation water tested, if you're using irrigation water, well, if you test mine, it is salty, and that stuff burns the leaves. So I have to find things that can thrive here, and mango is one of them, and it's got a quality of things that I like to use to thrive in this environment, which is that it can grow through adversity. So a mango, typically so strong, such a strong grower. This is a Fairchild mango that I did not plant that long ago, maybe a month ago, a month and a half ago. It's doing very well. Again, flowered. And I think these mango trees are just flowering because there's so much nutrient content going to them now. If you look around the base of these trees, you'll see the bunny manure, and also I use a lot of worm tea, vermiculture. But you know what? The worm tea and the bunny manure, I kind of feel like they're doing the same thing, which is just providing the food that draws in all the other stuff, which gets to another big thing I wanted to talk about today, which was the idea of how do you establish soil health? What's the simple thing you need to do to establish soil health? That was my question at the beginning of last year. Happy New Year's. Thanks for jumping on the stream. Appreciate it. But the bunny manure is just the foundation that brings everything else naturally into your fold, so to speak. So, what are the other things you want to see in your soil? Well, you want to see critters, bugs. You want to see worms. You want to see fungus. You want to see bacterias. And then you're going to see all the other stuff, like the so-called pests and the weeds. And I almost think those categories are unnecessary, but let's look here under this. I haven't picked this out, but yeah, this is what you want to see. Plenty of little things skittering and hopping everywhere. Now they can do that here. Here's a roly-poly. Get away. Yeah, little like nematodes that are down in there everywhere, thick. Ah, there we go. What's that? What do we have here? It's a worm. There's another one. Yep. Big old worm. And I'll tell you what, they're gonna get fed again. I have 2 buckets of bunny manure over there that I'm getting ready to put out in the yard. I could really use more bunny manure than I'm currently producing, and we're considering getting a third rabbit, a bigger rabbit, a 12-pounder, to even increase it. Thanks, Human Oliver. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I'm so happy with achieving leveling up, kind of getting the decoder ring of how to do this. And I'm stoked to share it. Look at this starfruit harvest. I've showed this in the last couple of videos, but it just keeps coming. By the way, this has redefined my concept of waste too, food waste. Nothing's going to waste here. These are all contributing to bug growth. Worms are eating them. Everything I had just mentioned is being supported by these starfruit rotting on the ground. You can't possibly eat them fast enough, and you can give them away, but it's not wasted at all. As a matter of fact, even the extra eggs, we've been producing so many eggs, can't possibly eat them or give them away fast enough. They're excellent eggs. But I've been actually well, some of them we cook and feed back to the chickens, which bizarrely enough is a common practice and it's really good for them. But the other thing I do is I'll just crack a bunch of them around the base of a tree, right? And all the worms and all the bacteria and all the bugs come in and eat that. And that's when you really are establishing, I've learned, genuine soil health. Because without that fungus in there doing the fungus thing, which is incredible. If you haven't looked at what I read up on what fungus actually does beneath the soil, produces essentially communication paths that trees and other plants utilize, and they kind of manage an area in incredible ways that they've been able to study. For instance, a tree that's encountering pests will do things to promote its seeds arriving on the ground farther away from where it's at, so that it's less likely to suffer the pressure that the mother plant is, that they can actually detect the seeds that are growing around them that came from them. And they actually do things to support those, like supporting your kids. It's amazing. So I finally get why people are talking about this no-till gardening. I was like, what is that all about? Why would they not want to till? And I don't know if this is, I haven't looked into no-till gardening, but I'm going to this year. It's one of the things I want to learn more about. But I can imagine how really we're like the monkey hurrying the fish up the tree, trying to save it from drowning in so many cases in terms of what we do in our gardening. We're trying to interfere in systems that very naturally set themselves up with a few key ingredients in place. And really all you have to do is just keep providing those key ingredients. It's like the old Zen saying, chop the wood, carry the water. You know, you just, pour the bunny manure and the worm tea. And, you know, among some other things, but essentially if you're doing that, you're providing so much that you can almost not lose. I've got some concerns, some issues I've got to deal with in 2022 that I'm not sure exactly what the best way to deal with them is yet. This is about a 40-foot tall giant papaya tree. And yeah, it's right against these 220 power lines. It's not pressing on it. It's about 6 feet away from them this way, but I'm gonna have to hire somebody to deal with that safely. I don't know how to do that safely at this point. I've learned my lessons with giant papaya trees, by the way. Now I'm going to be very careful to not allow that to ever occur again, because I've got another one over on the southern end of my yard. You can see this guy. It's going for the same thing, and they just become towering behemoths of consequence that are going to fall somewhere in a storm. That thing is coming down, and it's going to come down on something I don't want it to come down on, like my neighbor's fence. But yeah, I saw the question on the stream. Let me just, sorry, I'm trying to get back to the question. There we go. How much manure do your rabbits produce, says Dan Rogers. All right. Well, let's take a look. I'll give you the real-time answer to that, which is these pans were cleaned. I'm gonna say they were cleaned 5 days ago. About 5 days ago. Now these sweet little buns have been fed a lot of treats, so they're producing. Hello, sweet thumper. Look at this. How much is this worth? And every single human being I have brought back here just goes into a weird meditative state around these bunnies because it's so relaxing. Look, this little Thumps just goes right into the submissive bunny position and awaits his petting. And these rabbits are related to cashmere rabbits, you know, which they use for all kinds of things in the clothing industry. But the softness of these rabbits is absolutely amazing. Now Thumper, look, he's already like gonna doze off to sleep. He just loves to be pet. These rabbits will just sit in your arms for long extended periods of time. They're really awesome. All right, but this simple system, what I've got here is just a wire cage. It just on this side just wraps around a little bit, and it just lifts right up. I've only just stapled it along the top, and I get access to these, so I can just slide them right out. These are just a couple of pans I got at Tractor Supply, but that's about 5 days. So I would say if I had to estimate how much of a 5-gallon bucket this amount of manure would produce, it's probably about 1.5 gallons, maybe 2 gallons. 2 gallons of bunny manure, which is a decent amount to say the least. And one thing that you can do with this too, if you don't want to keep it in the pellet form, even though it's kind of gross, but make a rabbit poo stew. And by the way, if I ever form another band, it's going to be called Rabbit Poo Stew. Right? Oh yeah. But you can put it in there and almost dissolve the rabbit poo back into water, and then just sprinkle, pour that out everywhere, and you've got a turbocharger cocktail. Yeah, these rabbits are just insanely beautiful and so gentle. Look, Thumper is so tame. When I move his bowl, it's gonna sometimes it makes him nervous. These rabbits don't have a mean bone in their body. Not one mean bone. And look at how comfortable he is with being held. Now, this is a small rabbit. It's like 1.5 pounds. And that's the other thing. We don't have 2 giant rabbits. If I had gotten, I almost did that. I was going to get, I almost got 2 12-pound rabbits, ones that get up to be 12 pounds. That's about 5 times bigger than Thumps right here. So it'll produce about 5 times more manure. If you had bunnies that size, you could produce so much. They would actually be just fine in cages of this size. Like I said, I think if you want happy, well-adjusted rabbits, you got to provide them with a way to be a rabbit too. And one of the things rabbits do is just kind of sleep all day. But the other thing they do is, oh hey Penelope, is they dig around and sleep under bushes, and so that's what Penelope's been doing. I saw her there by the sugarcane. Hey Penelope, she comes over to get pets, so she hears me talking, she'll come over. Beautiful white rabbit. Her ears, as she gets a little older, start to get a little bit darker. She likes it when the chickens are in here too. And that's another fun thing everybody enjoys, to see the chickens and the rabbits interact. But she's a bit bigger. I'd say maybe she's about 3 pounds. Female. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rabbit. Yeah. Again, super soft. But she's a single mane type, they call them, single coat. And he's a double coat. Hey, Dumps. What you doing? Oh, gave me the bunny butt? Really? Huh. Maybe, yeah, he's like, come on, you can put me out. You ready to go back in? You might be thirsty. Hey, Thumps. Thumper, a little time to be out. So yeah, we could have definitely gone with utility. So cute. He does that flop hop, jumps in the air and then twists his body midair. Yeah, we like to be able to let them dig in the dirt, get their paws and snout dirty, chew on some wood. Here we go. That's what we call him, Thumper. See how he thumps? Yeah, and I provide this kind of stuff, which just gives them little hidey holes, little nooks. You can see they go about chewing on it and marking it. I just think it creates some cool habitat for them. It's been one of the uses I've had for these larger pieces of wood as I trim my yard. But yeah, they love it in here. And yeah, I think it is, you might call it rabbit tea, the poo stew. And I have used it many times, sometimes not on purpose, because you just leave the bunny manure out, and then before you know it, it's rained, and you've got bunny manure galore, which is a syndrome you would like to encounter if you're trying to grow stuff. Look at this. This little pot here are just a couple of pigeon peas that I threw in there about a week ago, and they're off and growing. The pigeon pea's so easy to grow. If you don't have them in your yard, you can get some. I actually dried a bunch. I was thinking maybe do some kind of like a giveaway or something. Ah, here we go. Giveaway for pigeon pea seeds. Get people started. All right. Look at that. That is bunny manure sludge, without any doubt. See, I'll probably end up making that into the stew. But, you know, you don't have to really get that complicated. As long as you're getting it in there. Yeah, certainly not a fancy job, but with one hand. Yeah, we're gonna get some rains. It's gonna get cold, actually. It's supposed to go down to 60 degrees here, which is something like a Arctic blast in my neck of the woods. And it'll rain as a cold front there, so this will get watered in. I need to get all that bunny manure out and into the beds and places I want to put it. Now that it's already been infiltrated by sprinkler water, I might just go ahead and make the stew, the nasty stew. Get a fair amount of it. That's an incredible resource. It's that permaculture practice of store energy. Really important one. This was sand from a fire pit that disintegrated into chips. I live in an area that is so salty that you can't have anything like a fire pit for any amount of time without it just disintegrating. Here's what it ends up looking like. Something like an archaeology dig. Just chips. This is a 1-year-old fire pit, and it disintegrated into rust chips. Look at all these rust chips. And like, I could go about trying to clean them out of this area or whatever, but they're just going to turn back into red powder. Look at the sand, see how it's got that color? That's because the metal has turned back into its component. It's turned back into dust. And that's just iron on the sand, stained sand. But, you know, observe and interact. Another key permaculture principle. Easy principles. And by the way, I'm going to go much deeper on permaculture principles in 2022. They've served me tremendously. Even as a philosophical exercise, I find that they map with everything I think is true in the world, so to speak. I am really stoked about a simple way to incorporate wood back into my yard. I'm just laying the wood on the ground, and what do we have here? What do we have here? Fungus. See that? Fungus. Look at this. That's not there yet. Here we go. Yep. Soil health. And this is also a good example of function stacking, which is something I love to do. This is where the hens were kind of getting diggy around the edge here. They were digging around the edge, and now I place these sticks there. It just promotes an easy barrier that also harbors bugs, so they can't get to every single spot, and the bugs have somewhere to get to. We used to have lizards in our backyard, but then we got chickens, and the chickens have eaten every lizard that comes into their territory. They're expert lizard hunters. They knew how to do it from the time of being very small. We saw one of our barred rocks had a snake in its mouth the other day. They had killed and they ate a snake. So that's pretty cool. But they, will get to everything that they can get to. So if I'm using sticks as a way to really to return the nutrients to the ground, to provide a natural barrier that keeps habitat that might not be accessible by the chickens. And I think that's going to be a good approach. Now on the other side of my house, I've got a gigantic live oak tree. And I mean, it is huge. See it right here. That's something I've got to deal with this year. I don't know if you have an oak tree in your yard, but if you do, this one I went out with a tape measure last night and I measured it. It was from the base, from the trunk, one side of it was 40 feet out from the side. That would mean if it was that wide on both sides, it would be an 80-foot wide tree. It is simply gigantic, out of hand, really too close to my house, way overweighted on one side, and it's so big and so heavy that it's really, my wife keeps saying, you gotta hire somebody to come deal with it. So I'm probably gonna do that, but my dream was to slowly process it back into the yard and use it, because, and I'm going to do that. That's gonna be the challenge this year, is how to hire somebody to come and deal with it and then also utilize it back into the yard. In other words, I don't want all that incredible oaky goodness just lost, just taken from the yard. I'd like to return it, but I don't want to be also a compost pile the size of Mount Everest either. So I'll figure out how to do it without getting a hospital bill, because some of those branches could easily weigh 1,000 pounds. It's really insane. And here's some of the trim work that I did. This is an oak branch from that tree, and you can see I use it as just a natural edge, and they work great for that. This is going to be, it'll take forever to break down, but in the meantime, it provides all kinds of areas for bugs to be under, et cetera, et cetera. So, and this eclectic edge, it's certainly not perhaps out of Better Homes and Gardens, but I'm not really going for that anyway. This yard is very functional, and it's very used. When you see areas like this that are just tamped down flat, like water doesn't drain there, because there's so many people in my family come out here every day to feed the chickens, to let the chickens out into the bunny run, to go to the bunny run. So we're foot traffic here all the time, and grass is not going to thrive in that environment typically. So I'm form over function most of the time, but I found that I really like the eclectic kind of loose look of a backyard like this. I think it puts me at ease, certainly, and it's a certain kind of stasis, a balance that I feel as if I've achieved. And yeah, I hope you will achieve it too, or have achieved it. Let me know in the comments what you're doing in 2022. What are your plans for your yard in 2022? I know some of the subscribers and viewers have commented on getting chickens or getting bunnies in 2022, getting their own property in 2022. I certainly think that's a good idea, to have your own property. And I don't have much property. I have a little, less than a quarter acre here, and I'm feel pretty lucky to have that for sure. But even with a small little piece like that, you can produce food. And I can honestly say I'm producing enough food that my family could survive from what we produce in the backyard. Now, it's not a completely closed loop, but most of what I have here could be fed with, basically green wild weeds and things like, the bunnies can survive 100% without bunny food. You just need to provide them with enough greens. The chickens can too. They can just survive on mostly food scraps, so that's for sure. But they can also supplement with a lot of greens. So despite that, though, I would say that the ability to produce 5 eggs a day minimum, 5 eggs, that thing produces 5 eggs a day, reliably 5 eggs, and a constant supply of fruit and veg, which is what we've got going on right now, year-round supply of both those things, perennial vegetables, annual vegetables, and lots of fruit trees. Yeah, really, it's comforting. It's comforting, to say the least. A couple years ago, I was thinking a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, specifically food, shelter, security, and food is pretty important. I wondered often what the effect of being self-sufficient enough to know that you could provide enough food for your little mini tribe or whatever confidently, what effect that would have on the world. And I think that it's pretty obvious, probably. More contentedness. I think that's a good word for 2022. Contentedness, as separate and distinct from happiness, which I think is a bizarre idea in some sense. Certainly momentary, but in terms of your brain states, I think attentive, content is a good state to be in. A calm attentiveness in 2022. That's my position. I'm sticking to it. And if you wanted to go even smaller than Bunzos, you could go with the wonderful worm farm, which is far less commitment. What do they say? Worms are people too? No, they don't say that. But having worms is a certain responsibility, I suppose. Oh, you know what? I need to throw some bunny manure in there. Hey, James Tropicals. James Tropicals holding down the snowstorm. Well, must be a little nice. A lot nice, actually. I would love to be in a snowstorm. I mean, not here specifically on these GPS coordinates, but first thing I think when I thought of a snowstorm was the cold temperatures hurting. Then I thought, it'd be cool to ski, do stuff like that. I finally got a new wetsuit. Both of my wetsuits ripped. And if you surf or you go in the ocean or whatever, you might wonder how many times you would have to use a wetsuit before it would actually just rip open. And both of mine did. This year in 2021, I broke 5 leashes in the ocean surfing. 5 different times. I was out surfing and the wave broke the leash and washed my board all the way, and I had to swim from way out in, which is no big deal. It's just that that's indicative of a bunch of things coming to the end of life. All these leashes were purchased about 10 years ago. They all kind of failed in the same year, which is interesting. Wetsuits, about the same deal, kind of failed. Now there's that renewal. So as one hits the trash, more golden goodies coming in the front door. So I got a nice little spring suit. Now I'm toasty in the surf. Hey, Garden of Twitty, good to see you online on the live stream. Yeah, we've had my office has been somewhat occupied by one of my oldest kids this week, home for Christmas, which is really awesome. But I'm going to be getting back into the studio, and this year I'm also going to produce a lot more original music. Garden of Twitty, you made me think of that. With our shared love of Radiohead. I love this time of the morning. You know, the hens are a little bit more active, to say the least, in the morning. You know, they're announcing their egg laying, and they're typically wanting treats. And this time of the day, they tend to just get into doing their thing. Oh, that's cool, going to see the Cowboys game. Ah, that's right, you're in Texas. That's wonderful. Truly wonderful. I can't think of anything that would be more fun than going to see an NFL football game today. Wow. That's amazing. We were going to try to get to a Bucks game this year, and it was just ended up being a series of comedy of errors. We just never got it accomplished. I've been planning out my 2022 year very carefully this year. I decided, you know what, this year I'm going to plan it out. And you might consider doing this kind of thing yourself, but to write down your plans for the coming year seems like a good idea. The way I do it is I first outline all the so-called dimensions of wellness that I can think of, and that would include things like your physical health, your intellectual health, your spiritual health, your financial health, your career health, which is related perhaps, but different interests. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Gordon Twitty's writing them down. Yeah, I haven't always done it, but I'm going to say for sure, if I look back, if I was treating myself like somebody I like, I would tell them, yeah, write it down, write a plan down. You would give yourself that advice every year. Yeah, of course you would want to. Yeah, what? And by the way, here's the other part. What things do you need to fix? It's useful to write down a list of everything that you're not doing right, and you could, but you're not. Whatever that is. Write those things down. Dare to do that. And then come up with a simple plan to fix one part of one of them. That's a good motto for 2022. This is a good motto, which is a quote of one of my favorite intellectuals, which is, don't compare yourself to other people, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. This is very closely related to permaculture, I think, philosophy, or what I would call permaculture philosophy, which is, a perpetual state of regeneration and growth. So I feel like it's going to be an excellent top shelf year. And I'm right now wishing everybody on the stream and everybody who watches the stream maximum joy, abundance, worms, bunnies, football games, and all the rest. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to Eat Your Backyard, please do that and hit the thumbs up button if you like this kind of stuff. I always get a dopaminergic reward from seeing those, which is very nice. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the compliments on the calming voice. I feel pretty calm, which is, this is a calming place. Here's the thing. This little slice of heaven, and I mean that like in the religious sense right now, this little slice of heaven back here with these content animals, part of a system that I'm part of too. It's very natural. It is very calming. It's almost like I feel like I've got a little animal sanctuary in our backyard now. So thanks for watching. Please stay tuned, by the way, and check out my other YouTube channels if you got any interest in that. I put my original music on the Jedi Jingle Maker. Lots of big plans for that one this year. I think I've got 9 subscribers, which is awesome. I love all 9. And then I also do a fair amount of surfing videos and that kind of thing on Surf All Day A1A. And I also have a philosophy meditation type channel called One Step Zen. which I haven't posted anything to lately, but I'm going to do some instructional videos on there to talk about a few, frameworks and so on and so forth that are used in philosophy. And then I have a product review channel that I review a lot of stuff that I end up getting for this channel. Primarily, Eat Your Backyard is my favorite and best channel for sure. And like for instance, this DJI gimbal that I'm using, I did a review of it there. I recently got wireless microphones too, and figured I had, long story short, a lot of issues getting them working because of my situation. Anyway, the point is, got them working and they work great. Now I'm going to be getting some lavalier mics to plug into these little units, and then the sound is perfect. That cost probably about $300, which is whatever. But now I can do interviews, I can do podcasts remote, I can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So stoked on that. So I reviewed that one on One Step Now. Did a little review. It's funny, one of the videos you might hear on Eat Your Backyard recently, it had the voice just coming out of one side of the speaker because I didn't know how to set the mics right, and it just recorded in mono. Which is kind of cool. You can have one voice come out of either speaker. If you're two people, there are two mics that go into. Yep, so I hope you have big plans for 2022. I'm going to be sharing my morning routine video soon. I don't know what channel I'll post that on. Let me know if you have a preference, but if you're interested in it. But my morning routine, I think it's really, really important to have a solid, repeatable morning routine, especially if you've got a lot you want to get done. And I've got a pretty good one established that I'm going to share with everybody. And it involves a fair amount of the things that I learned from Dr. Anthony Huberman on his Huberman Lab podcast, which is incredible, by the way. If you don't know about that, that is well worth a view. All kinds of free tools that you can use for all kinds of wellness, let's say, things. But he's a brain scientist, and gives you incredible tools where you can hack into your physiology, basically, and it's all free. Anthony Huberman. And so anyway, I've integrated a fair amount of those things, and several other things into the morning routine, which you might be interested in. Very soothing to hear the scratching of the hens. Gives a good view of the two types of chickens, Barred Rock on the right and the Golden Sex Link on the left. Ooh, they hear that other bird? Give me some soldier fly larvae. Okay, gonna sign off. Thanks, I appreciate everybody on the live stream. Hope your day is just getting started and you have a lot of cool things planned or in store. Don't forget to leave a comment, give a thumbs up, click the links in the description to go to Amazon when you go to Amazon to support the channel. Thanks for watching. Eat your backyard.